Welcome to the program. This segment is on exit planning, and the segment's brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. And I'm Mark Imperial. Joining me on this segment is Linda Rufinak. She's the founder of Execuity Value Advisors. Linda, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Linda, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically let us know who are the types of clients that you specialize in helping.
Yeah, so I actually work with business owners that are varying stages of transition. And usually that's where they've maybe been a few years in business, a few years, and are looking at a couple different things. It may be that they're wanting to transition and grow their business and accelerate that way, or maybe looking a little bit later on where they're wanting to exit in the next 3 to 5 years, and sometimes even faster than that. And so what I do is I go in and work with them to identify where they are today and help them build a roadmap for where and how they want to transition the business with a balance between financial objectives, business objectives, and personal objectives. That personal piece is such a key part of this whole equation when it comes to exit planning.
Do the business owners really even know that this process exists? What's the preconceived notions in their minds and how much thought do they put into it?
It's so funny. I've played around with different terms of what to call it because when you call it exit planning, it feels such a finality, that it's a final and I'm transitioning, I'm moving out of my business. That's why I like to use the word transition and transition points because it doesn't feel like you're kind of exiting and leaving and all of a sudden you've ended everything that you're doing and ended your career. It's about how do you transition through these different stages. And it doesn't matter whether you're, growing your business. I always say success can be scarier than failure. And you have to work through that of how you're going to handle the success, or that you're looking to exit your business. And what is that going to mean to you, both personally and professionally? And how do you achieve the goals that you want to achieve? Not necessarily that it's going to be at the end of it, may be compromise a little bit with the business. It may mean you don't take the best price out there because by taking the best price, you compromise those values that you held true in building your business all these years. And I think what I found is business owners don't have enough information available to them on how to transition their business. And I always find with that lack of knowledge and that lack of experience, then their confidence is gone. And so they're not as sure. So part of what I do in my role is figuring out how to educate, how to inform these business owners and helping them understand here's your options, here's what it means, and really vet out what it means to them.
In this series, I really wanted to shed light on like the process of exit planning. Can you kind of help us give us an overview or a 10,000-foot view of what the process looks like and working with an exit planning advisor and how you help them?
Yeah, so I'll share my process, which is, it's similar to many others. The first thing I do is look at current state. It's figuring out where are you at today? What's the value of your business? I dig deep in the first several weeks, the first 6 weeks of going in. I want to understand the history of the business, the culture of the business. Who are your best customers? And when I talk about best customers, I'm not necessarily talking about the highest value customers, but the ones that fit culturally within your business. Talking about identifying who could be a strategic acquirer in that, identifying are you positioning your company correctly? And I'll give you an example. I have one company that was positioned itself as a service organization, but when you dug deep, it really was a technology solution. Had you gone to the market with a service type solution, you're going to get a much lower multiple than you do with a technology solution. And so that helped to inform and educate the next stage of it, which is now let's figure out the roadmap of what are the things you need to do to shore up your business. Cleaning up the financials is always a big piece of that, and looking at where you make some adjustments so that you can get the highest price possible, and or you start looking at where you need to secure some of your numbers over the next couple of years that are going to increase those values. And then you start to think about where and how do you want to sell this? And depending on what it is, who's the best person to sell it? And that may be that, we can do it as a private transaction and we can handle it in a small group. It may mean that you need to bring in a higher skilled business broker that specializes in your particular discipline, Or for those bigger deals, you're bringing in an investment banker that is going to help you get a much better price, who has all the contacts and some of the the investment firms. They're going to, be able to pony up a lot more money for you.
As you start working with clients and going through this process, have you identified any big, like, glaring either mistakes, gaps, or pitfalls that they all seem to commonly have?
Is just a little bit about my history. The company I was with for 20 years, it was founded by ex-GE executives. And so I lived in this world of discipline when it came to numbers. And so when I broke out and started doing consulting, I was like shocked and amazed on it, how little time, how there's such a small amount of time spent on examining the financials and understanding your financials. They generally look at revenue, and then they look at what they're paying for what they have to pay for taxes. And a lot of their businesses and their financials are built around what to do to minimize taxes. Versus when you want to go to market, that's not what you want to look at. You need to be looking at that bottom line profit and how do you make it look like how do you make it to be the best number you can present. But even in that, it reveals that um, they aren't necessarily following the really a tight financial process. They may be looking at them, they get the quarter that the accountant reviews with them, and the ownership of those numbers still amazes me. And even to where some don't even know really how they make money. They just know if they sell more of this, they make more of this, but they haven't gone down to that layer. And the second thing is, how many of them do not have basic agreements in place? They don't have operating agreements and buy-sell agreements. And that piece alone is going to cause you lots of challenges at the point that you're wanting to transition if you don't have those key agreements in place.
Fascinating insight. Linda, tell me, what inspired you to get into this field and help other business owners with their exit plans and transition plans? Like, how did you get started?
Well, I'll tell you, part of it's from personal experience. So I was with a startup company that we ended up growing to over $100 million over a 19-year period. And I was a second generation owner within that, meaning that I was the second tier of management that was granted ownership to help grow and maximize the final payouts for that piece. And that's exactly what I did, is to help do that. And during that time, I ran operations, was the CFO, and then eventually the CEO. And I really realized that role as CEO is the loneliest role in the world. I mean, it is. And you have great players around you. You have both support and mentors, but if they're vested in your business in any way, it's very difficult to be very candid and vulnerable. And the fact that I don't have all the answers, right? No one wants to look at a CEO who says, I don't know what to do, right? And so I went out and sought guidance, and I really struggled to find the kind of guidance that I wanted, which I found people that either had a cookie cutter approach, need to follow my process, or I had others that would want to come in and take over my business and just kind of push me aside and say, here, let me take the reins for now, and I'll show you how to do it later. Neither one of those things went over very well with me. And so when I left after being there 19 years, that's kind of what I went into the business to do, was to fulfill that role that I never could find. And in that journey, I discovered this whole concept of exit planning. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what I'm doing. It's about coaching and mentoring through those transition periods as a CEO or as a business owner. And so it just kind of evolved from there. And then during COVID, it was a perfect time to get certified as a CFA, because I had plenty of time on my hands for a while. And so I went and got certified as an exit planning advisor, and haven't looked back since then. I'm actually having the time of my life right now. I feel like I'm in the best place in my career that I've been in a long time.
That's terrific. Linda, before I ask you my last question, is there anything I didn't think to ask you about exit planning that you feel is important to share with business owners considering that today?
Um, no, I think if the big thing is your financial part. And I'll give you one more thing, is that when you're making decisions about your business, stop and think about what the impact is, not on, we make financial decisions, but those financial decisions are going to impact your clients, your employees, and your investors. Same thing if you make a decision about your clients, that's going to impact your employees and your financials. But when you're making decisions, take all of those things into consideration and think about the ripple effects and how that's going to impact you down the line, because That's where I find a lot of times people make impulsive decisions without stopping and thinking about what it means to the other parties around them.
Linda, this has been absolutely terrific. For business owners listening and who would like to speak with you, how can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
All right, it's very easy. One, I can be found on LinkedIn at Linda Ruffenach, Ruffenach. I also, my email is linda@execuity.com, and that's EXECUITY.com. And the website is execuity.com. Any of those channels you can reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to set up a call and just learn about your business. I find that get so much out of these phone calls and just even learning about it. And if I can give you a few bits of advice that are going to help you, I'm more than happy to give my time. It's part of my purpose. And I always get something out of those calls as well. So please reach out to me.
That sounds like a win-win. That's terrific. Linda, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you. And thank you again for having me.
That was Linda Ruffenach, founder of Execuity Value Advisors. And this segment was brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.